Hey, welcome everybody. And this is a pre-record with Kirby Sommers. I've been listening to her videos every day. Was listening to them again today about her theories and the latest news on the JE case and the evolving theories of what's happened to Virginia. And God bless her, but Kirby certainly is keeping her spirit alive, as is Juliet Bryant, who I've been speaking to a lot recently. And I just want to make it clear, as I've interviewed various people over the weeks and months, I have formulated my own opinion of pharmacide, whereby pressure has been put on Virginia, especially from people like Lady Victoria Hervey, Epstein collaborators, trolls, etc., which made her likely to take more and more pharmaceuticals. And I think they'll do an autopsy on her, and there's going to be a big cocktail of pharmaceuticals is going to be a cause of death, so that the people who were behind the pressures upon her never get investigated, and anything that she was going to say, if she was to get back in court or talk in any legal capacity, is never able to happen now. So all of the vested interests are protected. And Kirby has her own evolving theories as well, and we're going to get to that. And all of Kirby's links, if you want to check out her YouTube channel and subscribe or follow any of the work, Substack, etc., where the banned content is, all of Kirby's links are in the description box below this video. So a huge thank you for coming back, Kirby. I know this is hard for you, and your sleep pattern's been disrupted with the angst of what's happened to Virginia. So we really do appreciate you, spending time with us.
Well, thank you for inviting me back. Yeah, I've been going back and forth trying to figure out, well, what really happened to her in her final days. And I think that you started this off really well by bringing in the non lady, Victoria Hervey, who I think that since we're not going to see, let's say, a Prince Andrew or a Bill Clinton or any of the very high powered names who have been brought forward, not just frankly in the so called JE situation, but in the Franklin case and so on. We've never seen any of those, let's say, go to jail. We've seen some of the victims go to jail in the Franklin situation. We've seen some of the victims unalive themselves, like we're seeing with Virginia. But I think that the way to hold people accountable is to start putting people such as their co-conspirators, like this non-lady Victoria and her troll army, hold them accountable. Because what they're doing is, it's not enough for this woman, this horrific woman, to have just trolled Virginia for years relentlessly with like hundreds of other insignificant people who knows what their objective is, right? But now they're going after Juliet, they're going after Maria, she's going after every single victim who has been brave enough to talk. It's not an easy thing to do, to step forward and talk about not just what happened to you because it's embarrassing, but also because we all know when we step forward that we risk our life. So what we have to do is hold people like Lady Victoria, non-Lady Victoria, who is just this horrific creature that everyone knows about, and her army of trolls, put them in jail. I mean, we're going to make a difference if we go after the underlings, like even in the Diddy case. Put all those people that worked for him in jail. Don't you think that that's a way to make a difference? And then we're not going to see the ongoing abuse and the toll that the trolling took on Virginia.
They should be held responsible for the consequences of their actions, and they are co-conspirators in Virginia's unalivement, as far as I am concerned. If two people or more come together to formulate a crime, that is the definition of conspiracy, and someone is unalived as a consequences of their actions, then they should definitely be held responsible. But they're crafty, they've got protection from the establishment, and I'm watching Lady Victoria Hervey do the rounds on podcasts. I'm reading the comments, and thank goodness public common sense is prevailing. And you read these comments, and they're absolutely putting her on blast and saying what disgusting, vile things she is saying, to be trying to dance on the death of Virginia and parlay that into actions against other survivors, such as the wonderful Maria Farmer and Juliet Bryant. And I'm sure that's just going to make them
And
even
it's just
more
those are
determined.
just two of the people that she's attacking. She's pulling out all the names of the girls who stepped forward, and I call them girls because we call each other girls, but with the women who stepped forward bravely, and she's attacking everyone. She's saying, "Well, that one's a liar. That one's crazy." I mean, look in the mirror, lady. You're delusional. And by the way, while I do not believe in either the blue party or the red party, and I haven't for many, many years, and I tell this to everyone, so I'm not for or against any president of the United States. But that said, it is being bantered about. At least 2 or 3 days ago, an article came out saying, "Oh, well, the Trump administration, Pam Bondi specifically, is going to push out on her tapes from Virginia regarding the so-called allegations against Prince Andrew." And what's the public going to be seeing? Well, there's actually a video, but that's the only thing they're saying they're going to release. Now, isn't that very convenient? Virginia is gone. Now they're going to release an actual video. So that's going to shut this woman up entirely because, well, you want to watch the video to see that your knight in shining armor is really not a knight in shining armor at all. But I don't know. While that would be all nice and dandy, we have to ask ourselves several questions. Number one, what's going to happen? Okay, they release a video of Prince Andrew and Virginia. Okay. Is the intent then to steer us away from looking elsewhere? Because Virginia named a lot of people, many, many people. Is it a way to then, narrow the scope of the JE situation? Because as far as legacy media is concerned, he wasn't a one-off. He was a pervert. There are not any other people like him. He's no longer around. They'll release a video of Virginia and Andrew. And is this case closed? Is that what we're seeing?
Well, I'd just like to touch on this story a bit because Pam Bondi, after the release of the Epstein files, has become the girl who cried wolf. But I did run this story by Ryan Dawson, and he thinks something is in the pipeline. So the headline was "Secret JE footage that could show Andrew and Virginia set to be released in the US. Bombshell video footage taken by Jeffrey, which could show Prince Andrew, Virginia, is expected to be released in the United States. The FBI has been reviewing tens of thousands of videos of Epstein, according to U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi. Meanwhile, legal papers filed by Virginia prior to her unalivement last month outline her belief that U.S. authorities held footage of her having, let's just say, carnal relations with powerful Epstein associates. The disgraced financier who died by unalivement, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, federal investigators seized a number of them following his death, and the material contained on them is understood to form part of the Epstein files. US President Donald Trump has vowed to make these public, with the White House stating early this month that the release of the bulk of the files is being worked on. A source told The Sun Andrew will be sweating over their release. If there's anything in there that involves him, it will pile more misery and humiliation on him. So, in your opinion, Kirby, as Pam Bondi was the girl who cried wolf on the previous announcement, do you think now they've got to release something to satisfy the public at this point? She can't become a laughing stock 2 times in a row, can she?
Well, we have to remember that Bill Barr made a lot of promises that he didn't keep during Donald Trump's first administration. I think we also have to remember that Alexander Acosta, who was in another position in George W. Bush's administration, he was the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida at which time he approved the plea deal for JE in 2008. And then, as we see time and time again in these interlocking rings that all lead up, Donald Trump, during his first administration, promoted him. He made Alexander Acosta the 27th United States Secretary of Labor from 2017, and he had to resign in 2019 so as not to embarrass Trump. It was not as if he was being called, put on the carpet or anything. It was just, don't embarrass Trump. Trump has had access to all of this material from the first day he took office. So why didn't he do something during his first administration? I think that, he made certain promises to the public in order to regain his position. It's more of like a trophy thing, to be frank, because in the end, is he really keeping his word about anything else that he said? I don't see it. In fact, I went to the pharmacy yesterday because I have an allergy, and I'm friendly with everybody in my neighborhood that the vendors, and the price had gone up from, I had an allergy 2 years ago, and then I have an allergy now, and I said to the woman, "Are you sure that's the price I have to pay for this?" And she said, "Well, Donald Trump says," and this is the pharmacist, the head pharmacist at my pharmacy, "Donald Trump said he's going to lower the cost, but everybody, not just you, but also me, he hasn't done it." So I'm thinking, okay, people are at least opening their eyes and they're paying attention to what promises are kept, what promises are not kept. And this thing with Andrew, we already know what the system does. The system will leave one of their own behind. We saw that they left, let's say, JE behind. He is no longer with us, allegedly. We know that they left Craig Spence behind. Even his Wikipedia page will show that he was connected to the three-letter agency in the United States that begins with the letter I. His partner, however, Larry King, was not to be touched. He was put in jail for a financial crime, so he was not to be touched. Jean-Luc Brunel was allowed to be removed from the scene. Ghislaine Maxwell has royal blood on her maternal side. She will be released in due time. However, even in the royal family, we see that Andrew has been too tarnished, so he's dispensable. He won't be, let's say, unalived or anything like that. However, King Charles and his successor, his son, they didn't want anything to do with Andrew. Easter came and there was a meeting with the family, and Andrew is really somebody that they're ready to just be rid of. That, nobody really wants to hear any more about this. Now, it's put him back in the news, and it's very sensational because it's a prince, it's the royal family. But you have had a very important guest on your show, Kevin Annett, who shared with the public, much to my surprise, because I'd heard about it for many years, what happened in 1963, 64, when the Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip went to Canada and 10 children disappeared, and then the witness was no longer to be breathing. So this goes back. This is not a new thing. This goes back many generations, and there are many parts to this that I'm happy to explore here with you today.
Thanks. And let me just tell the viewers that Kevin Annett is back for part 4 on his series about the Satanic Vatican on Saturday at 8 p.m. And he's emailed me excited. He's got a huge announcement he's going to make for the first time. So if the video is released, what's Lady Victoria Hervey going to do at that point, Kirby?
Well, I'd love to know. She likes the spotlight. It's pretty clear. I think if anything, I know she's listening to us because she listens to everything that you and I do, and wherever anyone is talking about it. And I think you and I have been the most vocal. Victoria, get rid of the hair. That's no longer in style. It hasn't been in style for many decades. Don't show your age in that way. That's my tip to you. The second tip is get a real job, because I don't think Andrew's going to be able to keep paying you for trolling Virginia because she's no longer here, and you're going to be able to actually watch Andrew in action. So gear up for it.
So when I saw that story then about this video, I just thought, oh, this is just the media nonsense again, building something up. I best send this to Ryan Dawson and see what he says. And I thought he would say something similar back to me. But actually, he said, this is huge. Trump can fire his shot and then threaten the rest of them to get in line. One video is all it would take. They'd all become scared, and Andrew is cooked. And if people are wondering why Ryan's not on to speak about this, you know, Ryan is going blind, as we've said, if you've not caught up with the story. But you can catch him over on X at RYLiberty and send him some well wishes over there. I'll put a link to his X in the description box if people want to send him some well wishes over there. So Ryan's taking this quite seriously then, Kirby. What do you make of that?
Well, I love Ryan Dawson. I really admire him, and I think that what's going on with his eyesight is just very suspicious, because they will attack you if you are too outspoken. However, I would disagree with Ryan's confidence in any administration, whatever name he would have put in there for the administration that's, quote, going to embarrass them all. I know better. I was an S-slave for 8 years. I was flown to Washington, D.C. I was flown to San Francisco. I was flown all over the country. I listened in on conversations that were happening around me. I know that Trump, just like with every one of them, is the part of the same, let's just call it, I have to call it a cabal. Can I call it a cabal?
The club, yeah, the cabal, yeah.
Let's call it.
Yeah.
So, Virginia and I followed a survivor of the Franklin case, whose name I'm going to keep private because he has a lot of trolls, and he has a podcast, or he tries to have a podcast and he makes a lot of really interesting points. He says things like, if you're a real survivor, you don't get big numbers, right? So look at my thing. You know, Elon Musk made my thing really disappear. With all of the real victims, we don't really get big numbers. You know, we don't get a lot of followers. Our things are shadow banned, right? However, he makes a lot of really interesting points. He said something like, he got a warning once because he won't shut up, and his goal is to save children. That if you do not shut up, if you speak, you will be unalived. That's just going to happen to you. That he was told specifically in his case, well, they're going to put him in a psychiatric hospital, and then they're going to throw him out the window, and then they're going to call it a self-unalivement. And what that reminded me of was another woman who I believe you may have spoken with Juliet about, who also is very censored, by the way, and that is Rushlana, the model who was said to have jumped out of a window. Well, Rushlana was really beautiful. She was on Epstein's, oh, sorry, I don't know if I can even say that name, but J.E.'s Island, 2 years before her unalivement. She too was a model for Victoria's Secret. Now that's something that I would like to touch upon, the whole Les Wexner situation, because there are people like Nick Bryant, and I don't, some days I'm like, okay, I believe Nick. Other days I'm like, I don't believe Nick. because he's never mentioned MK Ultra. MK Ultra has a big thing to do with this, as you probably will hear from JE's niece, and as I have been saying for many years. And also, he tends to believe, now he could be just like Ryan, innocently believing that some people are innocent, and he believes that Leslie Wexner is, quote, innocent. So I have trouble with people unless it's just, they're giving people the benefit of the doubt. So that's why we're all separate and doing our own thing, because the people on the outside, the investigators like Ryan and Nick, they're doing